collaboration, security, data center, and networking. This is IT in the Bay.
All right, here we are, IT in the Bay. Now, hey, Marshall, one of the things that we're going to do as you being a guest and the first guest on the show is I was thinking we'd start this thing where I say IT in the Bay and we say Bay together. Can we try it one time just to see how we get?
Yeah, let's beta test this thing.
All right, so ready?
I'm ready.
1, 2, 3. IT in the Bay. Oh, dude, I think that's it. I think that is it. I think we nailed it.
I think the energy was a little low, but we'll take it.
You want to try it one more time?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, second time. Here we go. Ready? IT in the Bay. Oh, dude, that was so much better. So much better. Okay, so, all right, so IT in the Bay podcast, what this thing is about, it's about, helping people out make technology decisions in IT, and really just helping people, with infrastructure decisions, all that stuff.
Well, and I think it's great to clarify the infrastructure component, since our focus has been, helping and solving problems around infrastructure, collaboration, and security, which pretty much every company has a need for all of that.
Yeah, it's not easy. There's a lot of options out there. So I guess before we get into talking about that, let's, who you are. Marshall, you've been, we've worked together, over 10 years, I think?
Easily, yeah. I think, we were working together when I was at another company, and you were actually doing the implementation and the design and the architecture for, a national collaboration solution, and tying that in with even the old school legacy PBXs. And I'm not quite sure how you did that, but it all worked out in the end.
Well, I think, and you've been in IT, you've been IT manager. Did you ever do help desk?
Briefly, when I first started, I definitely helped out, crawling under desks, helping with printers and, all that normal IT starting off in that journey.
Yeah, I was thinking, I feel like everybody has done print work. They've had a printer issue, or they've had to fix a printer. That's probably the worst part.
Well, what's sad
of
is
IT.
that's still the case today.
Yeah,
the old problems are still here today, and you'd like those to move. Particularly now that you're hearing about everything going to the cloud. Yeah. For some reason, the traditional my computer doesn't turn on or a printer isn't printing still is today.
You still got to get paper, right?
Yeah, you still have to have a few physical items.
So talking a little bit about you, when you got into IT, you did the printer thing, you did the help desk thing for a minute. Then did you what did you do? Did you move? Did you get a different job? How did you move in IT, like going from help desk and printers? Did you go to server administration? What did you do?
Really, it started with Novell and doing systems networking. Thanks, man.
I'm gonna help you out.
Yeah,
get you in that right zone. I was zoning out his microphone. Yeah, I love these microphones, by the way.
But anyway, no, working in traditional systems, ITs, from Novell, then transitioned to Microsoft at the time, doing projects from, I think it was like CC Mail and Groupware and whatnot.
CC Mail.
Trying to go to Microsoft Exchange, the very early days of Exchange before even Active Directory, and over time transitioning to networks, particularly around Cisco Catalyst switches, were all the rage, and even today they've refreshed that brand to the Catalyst 9K, which are really popular, at least that we're seeing.
And so when you talked about going from Novell,
yes,
to like Microsoft AD, that was like a kind of a big scary jump, right?
It was. I think that Microsoft, when they came out, they, with especially Active Directory, were trying to standardize with the internet standards and having a fully qualified domain name.
Mm-hmm.
However, because that was so new for customers and they were fearful about the public versus the private, you have to this day you'll see customers with the .local domain, which obviously is difficult nowadays to get certificates. You can't get public certificates with that anymore. So, but I think people have realized that security isn't just having some obscure name. You really do need proper security measures to protect your network.
Yeah, what's funny is as we're sitting here talking about transitions, IT has been constant transition. I think one of the things that we see today is businesses are now being finally impacted by technology. Technology is enabling different businesses to work differently. But IT, it's we've never been a stranger to innovation and disruption. I mean, we've been disrupted since the beginning.
I think the challenge is you don't want to disrupt the business. You don't want to impact, the customer or the employees that have to use this technology day in and day out to do their job.
Yeah,
and that's always been a balance of introducing new capabilities, new technology in a way that people actually enhances their productivity, and that's challenging. A lot of times when you're introducing something new, you could have a loss of productivity for a brief time before you actually start to realize the promise of what that technology was offering.
Thinking back, that's great, and I love that. But I'm going to ask you another question. Thinking back to as you've transitioned through all these roles, because I'm really curious now, what was your favorite thing? Can you think of a time in your career in IT where you're like, this is the favorite time. This is the best time.
I would say in IT, it's great when you solve one of those difficult problems that's still solvable. But it's business critical. You know what you have to do, but it's not right in front of you, and so you spend the time researching, or you have the opportunity to try things out. And then when it works, it's extremely gratifying. I mean, some of that might be behind the scenes, and so maybe the organization, doesn't give you all of the recognition you would hope for, but it's still very gratifying when you get something that was a challenge and you got it to work.
So when you ran out of the server room and you're like, I V-motion that server, and everybody, marketing, sales, they come out and they start clapping. Is that what you got?
I think from a feature set, what VMware did, and watching a live, vMotion, like you said, with a video playing and seeing that live, I thought that was very impressive. And obviously that's now old hat. Everyone's doing that. But at the time, that was very cool.
One of the most exciting things I remember is I remember going into a server room and seeing the robotic tape array. And, when I finally I had that moment, where you see the backup and it's going from tape 1 to tape 2, and the little robotic arms, it's on this belt drive thing. It was so amazing.
When it works, it's very cool.
Yeah, and then it never worked again.
Well, yeah, you have moving parts that can always break. So, but yeah, I think, some of the things that I thought were definitely innovative at the time was the transition to different fabrics. And so, you moved from, direct attached storage or internal storage, and then you started moving things to a fabric. And so you have SANs and NASs and whatnot. But that seems to be the trend with virtualization is, even server nodes today with hyperconverged, they're on fabrics.
Yeah.
And so the fabric still is extremely important.
Can you say fabric one more time? Say it.
Fabric.
How, what does that do for you? Does that make it sound better?
This is definitely a beta run at our podcast. So
what are you talking about? This is amazing. All right, so get back into the fabrics. What do you got?
Oh, so
wait, what kind of fabrics are we talking about? Not fabric softener.
No, we're an IT shop. So
get to the what fabric?
So
talking fiber channel. We talking
fiber channel, Ethernet, you name it, and obviously the convergence of these different protocols and standards. Being able to run off of just an Ethernet switch or a switch that can have universal ports, so that you could mix fiber channel with Ethernet. Definitely is capable today. And things are definitely from a feeds and speeds always increasing, so that the network itself or the fabric doesn't become a bottleneck. And so coming back from Cisco Live, they were showcasing the newest of their modules, which is the 400 gigabits per second. Gone are the days of the 100 gig a second,
or 10.
So they definitely the switching and the fabrics have kept up with pace, probably a lot faster than maybe you need today. But again, it's to help with the future proofing.
Yeah, and so when you look at where we're going today, I mean, there's a lot obviously transitioning to cloud. So, what are your thoughts on that? What are some of the things that you're
So how long is this podcast?
We'll probably get 30 minutes.
Yeah, the transition to cloud obviously is well on its way, and the projections out there continue to show higher and higher adoption rates, and I think people have all kind of now accepted that it's happening. And so one of the things that we're seeing nowadays is how do you secure this and manage all of these different services or clouds out there. And there's definitely some nice exciting new technologies and new products out there to help you do that.
I think one of the things you just mentioned is security, which is really a hot topic for I think everybody, and not only IT but just anybody using digital technology. Let's talk about some security.
Definitely, I think one of the exciting parts is security in the cloud, and so we've seen the days of where everything backcalls to a central co-location or data center, and really large security appliances, and then moving to the edge a little bit further and having a decentralized model, maybe of smaller security appliances everywhere. And that movement really has kind of kept pace with the improvements of direct internet access.
Yeah.
The DIAs out there having high speeds, probably better at this point than a lot of the other circuits or even MPLS, where you can have just internet access at a faster and cheaper rate.
Yep.
And so you see the proliferation of software-defined WANs, which big piece of that is creating the tunnels over just DIAs, as well as the security. But then moving even further and adding that same level of security into the cloud has definitely been a want, and we're seeing products that are addressing that.
Well, there's so many different angles with security. Like there's all of these file sharing services. There's the authentication piece. There's the connectivity piece. When we look at all these things, what you mentioned SD-WAN. What are some of the products or the thought process that you think about when somebody or a customer, or we're talking to somebody and they go, you know what, I really want to improve my security, IT security?
Yeah, the first things that I like to look at is from a foundational component. Do you have single sign-on? Do you if you're having all your different systems, and there's more and more of them, and each one.
Oh, geez, I don't think we're doing a caller. Oh, caller. Let me. Sorry. Let me turn that off. That was a real blast, wasn't it?
I thought that was a caller coming into the panel, into the switchboard.
We did have a live caller, but I we're not ready to receive a caller right now.
But yeah, I think when I already lost my
Where
train
were
of thought.
you? Where were you? Where were you going? You were talking about single sign-on. One of the things that, before we dive into the nuts and bolts, because we're going to go real deep, but before we do that, what is single sign-on? For maybe there's people listening that don't know.
Yeah, an easy
Maybe
way
I
to
don't
think
know.
about it is, and I'll kind of just mention what a lot of customers already have is, say, Active Directory in your environment, and that's keeping track of all your users, usernames, passwords, and you can tie various systems into that. And that's true using a single sign-on technology, SAML, and being able to tie that in to your Active Directory, as an example. You only have to keep track of one set of user credentials. And then from a security perspective, when you want to lock that account or enable that account, it pretty much proliferates to all the other systems.
So it provides some scale for authentication in the cloud.
That's right. I mean, there's definitely some behind the scenes things that are happening there, but yeah, it definitely centralizes your security, and it increases the security so that if you have a certain policy that you have to have so many characters and numbers and whatnot for your password, you ensure that that's going to be the case no matter if you're using even like a cloud service like Dropbox. It follows that same security model.
Yeah.
The other thing it really helps with is, it's difficult if people have to remember, 20, 40, whatnot systems to keep track of all their usernames and passwords. Now, from a corporate perspective, they only have to keep track of one set of, username and password. And so hopefully that removes the need for them either forgetting and then losing productivity because they have to now call IT or they can't do their job, or even more, scary or worse is the fact that they write a whole bunch of things down on sticky notes or they don't really create.
That was sure scary.
I like it.
Sorry.
Or they don't really create, hard or secure passwords.
Yeah.
Reusing the same password in all the public websites is not a good thing. And so by removing the security from a public website and taking control of that is a good thing.
One of the things that even we've benefited from, it doesn't matter if you're a 1,000-person organization or a 100-person organization, having single sign-on makes it much easier to administer new users changing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the onboarding becomes a lot faster.
Yeah.
And then beyond, on layering on top of that would be two-factor authentication.
Yeah, and with two-factor authentication, one of the things that early on when RSA came out with their tokens, and you had to have the physical token, and you can still do that, right? But two-factor, it seems like it's more reachable now.
Well, and a big reason for that is everyone's holding a smartphone.
Yeah.
So instead of carrying around a little key fob, and then having to, look at the changing digits every, 30 seconds or so, and then type in what you see, having a smartphone that you're carrying around all the time, and then having an app that can push down the request to log in, and you just hit approve.
Yep.
Simple as that. It's definitely made the users, appreciate the technology a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, I think two-factor is almost, I think it's a must. Especially when we're talking email or public service like Office 365 or Gmail. So many people know that those services exist and that your email address is one part of the login, and then you're in.
Well, and one of the great things with two-factor is being notified if someone has somehow, you hope they don't, but if someone has your username and password or email address and password, and they're trying to connect into a site that you've enabled two-factor on, for yourself individually or because of your company doing it, you'll be notified of someone logging in. It could be yourself, and you know that you're logging in, you click approve, or if someone else is trying to do it, your app will actually still show that someone's trying to authenticate, as you, and you would hit deny, and that should be a pretty real-time indication that you might need to change your password.
Yeah. But
you were still secured.
Yeah. So if you got phished, at least somebody got your password. You at least know somebody has your password.
Right. And so I think we're talking about the security that's really impacting at the user side, but there's security is a multi-pronged approach. It's layered approach, and definitely there's a lot of things going on in the back end where you're being able to see the traffic traverse through your networks. You can now secure that traffic. As things have moved to the internet, and people are being a lot more mobile, and they're no longer secure just because they're inside of their office. That extending that security into the cloud has definitely been a trend as well.
One of the things with the two-factor, going back to that, it's something that I think a lot of people don't even think about personally. For when I think of your, account, your bank account info, your, personal email. And
you can enable that.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not just a corporate technology. This is just a security technology that companies are allowing individuals to enable. So you can enable it on Facebook even.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think it, with all the things going on, identity theft, all of that, you kind of need to enable it on everything, especially the things you care about. So if you care about your money, If you care about your grandma's photos, you got to enable that two-factor.
Definitely.
So we talked about two-factor, which is awesome. We talked about single sign-on from a security perspective. What else should we cover from a security perspective when you think about general protection, I guess?
I think, everything is web, and people are, when they're getting to files or, it's not just web pages, but everything is going through, the 443 secure HTTP. And being able to understand what traffic that is, or what type of data that's traversing, and trying to make sure that you can have the most secure experience wherever you're at. And so I think securing public internet and public access to clouds while you're mobile, while you're remote, not being inside your network, is definitely important. And one of the simplest ways to help address that is just right at the DNS level.
Yeah.
And so being able to, when you're trying to, pull up some content and it's going to multiple sources, some of those sources are fine, but other content, which is making up the web page, could be malicious. And if you can stop that at the DNS layer before you're even streaming any of that content or going to that site, it's such a low CPU intensive thing that people should definitely do that. And there's free technology to secure your DNS requests. Obviously, there's corporate and paid technology to do that, so it's more manageable from a corporate perspective. But it's something that people should take advantage of.
Yeah, it's a super easy, and it's, like you said, scalable, lightweight, follows you where you go.
Yep.
It's great technology. Leveraging something that's so simple, it's been like the root foundation of the internet, essentially, is DNS.
Right. I mean, I don't think people would really use the internet if they had to remember every IP address out there. So you're absolutely right.
And then, so I guess, when we think about these technologies, we talked a little bit about the authentication. We talked about the protection. What about the actual asset, the laptop, the tablet? What are you seeing there?
That's a little bit tough. I think that if it's a corporate asset, you're still seeing MDM solutions, mobile device management solutions, and there's lots of different words for that. But it's pretty much like locking down, taking ownership of that device. But the challenge there is the BYOD, and so we've seen where companies will purchase a smartphone, an iPhone, and that person has an iPhone. Yeah. And so now they're carrying around two phones, and it's because they want to lock down and have complete control. And then we've seen companies support the BYOD, bring your own device model. And so I think that, really at the heart of it is the data. And so being able to feel confident that you're securing the data should be the main focus. And it's like I said, it is challenging trying to secure every single type of hardware out there, since people are just, using a multitude of different hardware, different, operating systems. It could be a tablet, a smartphone, a computer, you name it. And so, having an approach that at least, gets to the root of securing the data, encrypting the data even at rest. Maybe it's in, some sort of container or locked application that if there was a compromise, you can, blow away the data that lives on that device, even if you're not wiping the whole device.
Yep.
So I think that's something that customers definitely should also look at. Another one too, which is probably overlooked quite a bit, especially in the mid-market, mid-sized customers, is having a BYOD policy. Yeah. If you don't have, and it doesn't have to be like a handbook policy that, you make everyone sign. It could be, but, just having a policy so that how you want to approach technology, what technologies you should be looking at. Yeah. Otherwise, it can be fragmented. You may have great, security policies in one part of your company, and you may be lacking in others. And without having, a policy to give you direction, everyone's kind of guessing at what would be best for their company.
Yeah. Yeah. We touched on a lot of core pieces of security. So, I mean, I think you touched on what I would consider the major ones, authentication, protection for the endpoint. We talked a little bit about some type of third party or DNS, internet controlled filtration. So, I mean, that kind of checks a lot of the boxes around security.
Yeah, and really now, you're kind of seeing, where do you put the security in certain cases. So, for instance, a firewall, you may put that at an edge, you may centralize it, but you can also put it in the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things that we're seeing when you're putting a firewall in the cloud, and just coming back from Cisco Live, Cisco announced, one of their big announcements was through their umbrella, which was the OpenDNS acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
They actually added into that product, which is all cloud, a cloud firewall.
Oh, with some filtering capabilities.
Exactly. And so you can do, port, IP, destination, source, and they'll be adding in over time some layer 7 capabilities as well. But how they accomplish that is you're actually creating tunnels. So your branch will have a secure tunnel into the umbrella cloud under your account, of course, and the firewall lives in the cloud. So you don't need to actually have any additional hardware.
Yep.
I mean, obviously you need to have something to create the tunnel, but that could be an existing, router. And once you've created that tunnel, all the security is in the cloud.
Yep.
And there's other companies out there that have something similar.
Zscaler's done it.
Definitely.
Palo Alto's done it. So.
But yeah, for Cisco to have now also a similar solution, but using their technology is definitely a plus, because that's what we're seeing from customers is they want to take some of the on-prem infrastructure and where it's applicable, move that into cloud applications.
Well, I mean, there's just so much benefit to having centralized policy management and centralized capability where you just don't have to maintain as much on premise.
That's right. And if you have a branch where you have like 800 or 1,000 branches, and you have to purchase a couple $1,000 firewall at all these branches, it adds up quite fast. And being able to centrally manage all of that can be challenging. And so looking at a cloud solution that is trustworthy, that has a proven track record, of course, can definitely be a financial benefit and simplify your operations.
Yeah, I mean, those are all things to consider is like, what's the support? Now I'm sending all my traffic through a third party and putting all my trust in their capabilities.
That's right. But even with on-prem products, the vendor that you're partnering with is keeping those up to date. They're keeping either definitions up to date, policies, or you have a IPS, intrusion detection prevention system. Usually you're relying on the vendor to keep those up to date, and you're pulling down those updates either, several minutes or at minimum once a day.
Well, cool. Well, we covered a ton today. I think we went all over the board. Talked about old school, talked about some security, covered some new school. Thanks for being here.
Oh, this is great.
You got to come back. You got to come back again. I think you will come back again. You'll be a regular appearance.
Thank you.
Tuesdays at 8, Mondays at 8, Mondays at 7.
8 in the morning?
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, that's a little early.
All right, cool. Well, hey, where can people reach us? What do they do? I gotta look to my crew here. How do people reach us? Do they tweet us? Do they IG us? Do they
tweet us? Tweet.
Yeah. If you got an idea, should we back IT in the Bay hashtag or what?
Yeah.
All right. So, hey, if you got something you want us to talk about, some technology you want us to cover, just tweet out hashtag IT in the Bay. You didn't join me, Marshall, but that's okay. And then we'll try to cover it for you. You can also check out our IG account, whatever you want to call that, Instagram. We're on the Facebook. We are on the YouTube. And also, if you want to get some technical details, you can check out the Looking Point blog, lookingpoint.com, and then click on the blog link. Tons of wonderful technology stuff from Marshall and others just like him. That's it. See you later.
IT in the Bay. IT